Hello everyone. So Xavius is live. The last boss on the Emerald Nightmare is live for LFR now. One thing I will preface this by saying is that this fight is hectic. This fight requires a lot of coordination and a lot of mobility, which is hard to find in LFR. So if you wipe on this boss, it'll probably be something pretty normal, but this boss fight requires you to be on your toes. First, start off this boss fight with a lot of ads. I'm gonna play this, really fast in the background. There's nothing too big about this. As a tank, pick up all the ads. As a DPS, get your AoE and your cleave ready. Don't stand in any of the dark red circles on the ground, and make sure you watch your threat, just so you know the tanks are taking all the damage before you do. So again, these ads in the beginning are nothing too crazy to worry about. Just know that as soon as these ads are done, the boss will spawn and start running towards you, so you have a very short break in between the ads and the boss to be able to eat and drink. This whole fight centers around people that are in the dream. Now what this means is you'll get a buff that has you in a dream state. Now if you are in the dream state, you basically have to be a savior to the rest of your team. In phase 1, at about 90%, half the team will go into the dream and the other half won't. Now you see here towards the bottom, you see my corruption bar. If that becomes full, I become mind controlled, and that's it. I lose. Unless I'm in the dream, then I'm allowed to let that corruption bar go to full once, and then once it fills up in the dream, I'll get out of the dream and I'll be fine with my corruption bar exactly where it was before. Now basically what needs to happen is if you're in the dream, you do see some of these ads back here. They fixate on someone and they run straight to them. If you are in the dream, what you want to do is run in between the player and the ad and basically just take the damage for them. If you're in the dream, you are going to be a savior. You're going to be taking damage for everyone. Another thing to note in this phase is the boss will throw a bunch of shards at people, and this does also add to your corruption. So if you are being targeted by this and you have a giant red arrow on top of you, you basically want to run out of the raid, let this hit you, and then run back in. You do see the ad that is spawned here. Again, just pick that up, and as a tank it relatively close to the boss while facing away from the raid, just because you don't want it to cleave everybody. Another thing is tanks have to taunt off of each other every 2 to 3 stacks of a debuff that the boss gives. The debuff can be cleansed off, but it should only be cleansed off if you are a healer that is in the dream. Again, this fight revolves around the dream. I cannot stress this enough. If you are in the dream, then you need to basically take all of the damage for the raid. You need to stand inside of AoEs and soak them up for the raid. You need to dispel. You need to jump in front of ads. So you see here now we hit the second dream phase, and you have been seeing these big puddles on the ground. Now what this means is that if you have the dream, you have to go stand in this puddle. It does add a little bit of damage taken to you, and it adds to your corruption. But again, if you're in the dream, you can go 100% corrupted and not become mind controlled. If no one stands in that puddle, it will spawn an ad. Now once you go above 1/3 of your corruption bar, you'll start seeing big giant pink vortexes appear. You see that right here. You want to run out of that immediately because that is a giant slam on the ground. Now don't confuse it with a meteor, because that's exactly what I did in this attempt. Now what a meteor looks like is also a giant big AoE circle on the ground, but it does not have the pink swirl inside of it. So you do see here behind the boss again, we have the giant pink swirl, but we also have a giant swirl inside of the raid DPS. If you have the dream, run in it. If you do not have the dream, run out of it. Why? Because this will add more corruption and more damage, but it'll be split between everybody in there. I hope all of this is making sense. So again, if you do not have the dream, prioritize hitting all of the ads first and then hit the boss. If you do have the dream, stand in front of people that are being fixated by ads. Stand inside the small circles of corruption to make sure you absorb all of that. Stand inside the AoEs for the meteors, but avoid the giant pink swirl that's a giant smash. Again, you see me here and you do see another DPS joining me, just trying to absorb all of these puddles. I do let the other tank take over for a while. As a tank, every phase has its own debuff, and you should taunt every 3 to 4 debuffs and let the healers cleanse you and pick up healing. If you're a healer, do not cleanse or dispel unless you are in dream state. Once the boss gets to 3rd phase and starts summoning all these tentacles, pop hero and DPS the boss exclusively. One very good tactic that you should do is move the boss close to the tentacles so that they can get passively cleaved and DPS down. But the tentacles will overrun you eventually, no matter what. So phase 3 is a DPS raise exclusively. The very last mechanic that we didn't talk about during phase 1 is chains, and they do appear between 2 random people in the raid, and they do need to run close to each other and basically hug each other for those chains to go away. Now I know that was a lot of information. I did try to sum it up a little bit towards the end. If you're in the dream, you're the one dispelling, you're the one taking ads, you're the one running into AoEs on purpose, and if you're not in the dream, be very careful. Try to avoid as much damage as possible because you will get MC'd and you will go down. I hope that sums it up and explains it well enough to do LFR difficulty. Good luck.